Come on in. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about 5 really obscure Survivor players who changed the game behind the scenes. One of my first videos when I started this channel was about the true game changers, your Stacy Kimballs and Cowboys of the world, obscure players who invented common game strategies that are now frequently used, but who never quite got their due. Now I'd like to look at the other side of the coin, relatively obscure players who changed the game behind the scenes. These are not players who invented new game strategies, but rather players who prompted changes to the format of the show, whether that's in casting or in its structure. As always, obscure is relative, but at least a few of these people are some deep Survivor cuts. Which obscure players changed the game behind the scenes? Let's find out. At number 5 is Claire from Survivor 44, who abused the challenge sit-out rule so hard that the show reformatted how often you can sit out in the new era. For most of Survivor's lifespan, players were not able to sit out back-to-back challenges, which was fine because there was typically a reward and immunity challenge in each episode. In a given round, if you sat out one challenge, you had to participate in the next one. But that changed in the new era, where reward challenges became few and far between. So the rule was changed, with each round, aka an episode, being a reset. So you could sit out back-to-back challenges, provided they were separate rounds of the game. When Bruce bonked his head 5 minutes into Survivor 44 and was evac'd, both Soka and Ratu had to bench a player at the first immunity, so numbers were even with Tika. But as Soka continued to win and gain momentum in the game, they kept benching Claire over and over because each round only had one challenge, and Claire was able to skip participating in 3 immunity challenges in a row. And she was booted in episode 4, having only competed in the initial challenge on day 1. It's honestly impressive to have left the game having competed in as many challenges as the guy who left the show after 10 minutes into the season. Jeff addressed this on his podcast at the time and said that they should consider changing the format back for the next season. And sure enough, they did.
New rule. It used to be that the sit-out would reset after a tribal council. So here's the new rule. You cannot sit out of back-to-back challenges, period.
Overall, I think this was a super solid change for the show. It helps out bad tribes by forcing strong tribes to strategically sit out their players, rather than just being able to bench their weakest physical players each time. And Claire sitting out 3 immunities in a row in 44 is the push the show needed to get there. Honestly, they should have known this was a possibility beforehand. What do you expect when you put a VC on Survivor anyways? She's gonna leech off the work of others. At number 4 is Boo from Survivor Fiji, who inadvertently changed Survivor casting forever. Here's a fun thought experiment. What happens if Boo never attends a taping of the Big Brother 2 finale? Well, Sari potentially wins a Final 3 in Survivor Micronesia, Shane is on Survivor Heroes vs. Villains, and Survivor One World is much less racist. It's Survivor's own bizarro multiverse, and it all leads back to Boo. But let's flip the hourglass and go back for a moment. A lot of Survivor history can be traced back to Boo attending a taping of Big Brother 2's finale as a guest of BB2 alum Krista Stiegel. It was there that he met a CBS casting agent who ultimately got him on Survivor some 6 years later. And after his stint on Fiji, he clearly remained in CBS's good graces because he got, like, every person he knows on Survivor. Now, it's not uncommon for players to occasionally recommend friends or associates to casting who they think would be good on the show. Eliza suggested Charlie from Survivor Gabon, for example, and Steven suggested Liz from Survivor Co-Wrong. There are probably a lot of these throughout Survivor history. Now, considering the impact of Charlie and Liz, it's no wonder they never sourced castaways from Eliza and Steven again. But they went back to Boo all the time. who turned over Russell, James, Colton, and Shannon to casting, who played a combined 9 times in US Survivor in a 6-year span, plus 2 more if we count Russell's nephew Brandon. Russell, obviously a massive character who changed the way Survivor is played forever. James, one of the most popular players of his era. Colton, who, for better or worse, definitely worse, a huge character who couldn't exemplify 2012 reality TV casting more if he tried. And Shannon, well, no one bats 1,000. Throughout the mid-late aughts and into the early 2010s, Boo was digging up casting gold left and right, unearthing players who were some of the most popular and polarizing players of their day, who all massively changed Survivor history. And also Shannon. At number 3 is the cast of Survivor One World, who were so dumb that casting pivoted away from casting dumb people in the future. This one sounds harsh, but it's true. If you've seen One World, you know it's, how to put this charitably, a steaming pile of shit. Toxic personalities, boring characters, stagnant strategy. It truly has it all. In a 2013 interview with Chuck Klosterman, Jeff talked about how, after this season, he instructed casting to no longer cast complete morons. Now, unfortunately, the actual podcast this is from is seemingly lost to time, at least as far as I can tell, but it was very famous at the time, and a Survivor Sucks user transcribed this part of it, which has lived in Survivor infamy ever since. A couple seasons ago, we had 2 people on with IQs that were very low, and I wrote our casting director from location and said no more dumb people. Dumb meaning truly unfit mentally or intellectually to play the game because they were so out of the game that they actually screwed it up for everybody else. And not in a good way. It's like you need to know how to throw a ball if you're going to play a game involving a ball. And so you need to be able to think with numbers and a little bit of strategy, or you're going to make this game so much about chance. Though Jeff was lean on specifics, fans widely took this to be about One World given the timing of the interview. Casting noticeably improved following this season, and as for the 2 dumb players, well, we all probably have some ideas, but I'll let you come to your own conclusions over this completely unrelated footage. At number 2 is Janu from Survivor Palau, whose quit set a precedent that Jeff would come to hate, that quitters can serve on the jury. Janu was the 4th player to ever quit Survivor, but the first ever to quit in the jury phase of the game, and this was uncharted territory for the show. Jeff reacted to the first quitter ever, Austin, with utter disdain. He could barely stomach the sight of him. Jenna and Sue both quit under pretty reasonable circumstances, so I don't think production were really upset with them, but Janu was an interesting case. At the final 8 of Palau, Stephanie was definitely going home. Stephanie was poised to be a huge fan favorite. She survived her entire tribe's pre-merge destruction and was the only member of Oolong to make the merge part of the game. To lose her so early on in the individual part of the game was undoubtedly a frustrating loss from a producer's point of view. Janu to the rescue. Janu wasn't really liked on Karor and didn't have that many allies in the game, and once Stephanie's gone, Janu was probably getting voted out next. Fast forward to Tribal Council, where a tearful Stephanie is pleading for her life, and Janu seemingly could not care less if she even remains in the game. Janu straight up says she wants the tribe to vote her out, but as we know, asking to be voted out doesn't always guarantee you'll be voted out. And on Janu's belief that Karor wouldn't actually vote her out despite her wishes, she lays down her torch so that Stephanie can stay in the game. In a stark turnaround from Austin's quit just a few seasons prior, Janu's quit is treated with relative dignity, her torch is snuffed, her final words are aired, and Jeff isn't staring daggers into her soul. In a move that surprised and frankly upset many at the time, Janu was then allowed to serve on the jury and vote for the season's winner. And this happened, I think, for 2 reasons. One, if she wasn't on it, the jury would have an even number of people, which could result in a final tribal tie. And 2, she saved a major fan favorite by falling on the sword. And I don't think it's unreasonable to think that production would want to repay that favor by giving her a say in voting for the winner. This, however, set a precedent that the show would come to rue in Survivor Nicaragua, when Nyanka and Purple Kelly quit on day freaking 28, the angriest Jeff has ever been on this show. In interviews with Jeff, it's clear he's annoyed, to say the least, by production allowing Nyanka and Purple Kelly to remain on the jury despite quitting so close to the end. But precedent is precedent. Following Nicaragua, precedent was again changed to production's choice. They can choose to keep quitters on the jury or not. Would a post-merge quitter stay on the jury in the new era? Honestly, tough to say. Jeff's in grandpa mode now, but he was really PO'd in Survivor 45, so it probably depends on the circumstances. But I'm honestly open to finding out. If only that vape withdrawal had kicked in a few weeks later, we might have known. At number 1 is Mitchell from Survivor Australia, who prompted a rule change that votes are removed from the urn in between each round. In a 2020 Facebook post, Mitchell revealed that he saw Colby's vote for him in the urn when he went up to cast his vote for Keith in episode 4. In this episode, Tina and Colby were blindsiding Mitchell, and Mitchell was the second person to go up to vote after Colby. Per Mitchell, he voted Keith, did his little vote speech, and then when he opened the urn to put his vote in, he saw Colby's vote for him because Colby put his vote in the urn writing side up. The next day at Ponderosa, after Mitchell had been voted out, he talked to executive producer Mark Burnett and told him that he accidentally saw Colby's vote, ruining the blind side, which prompted Burnett to later enforce a rule that production will remove votes out of the urn in between each vote so players can't accidentally see other votes. This is at least according to Mitchell. Not a difficult thing to believe at all from a fairness point of view, and considering production needs to sometimes step in anyway to add in extra votes, lost votes, stolen votes, whatever else votes. It's a sensible change for the show from both a logic and fairness perspective, as peeking into the urn, accidental or not, is kinda like seeing your Christmas presents before your parents have a chance to wrap them. Except in Mitchell's case, the Christmas present was actually a piece of coal with a note attached from your parents saying they're kicking you out of the house. Worst Christmas ever, actually. Got nothing else for ya. If you want to be my boo and bring 4 friends to the channel, like and subscribe, and I'll get you and them more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.